These principles are quite straightforward. Ukraine must fully withdraw its troops from the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic, from the Kherson and Zaporozhye regions, and let me emphasize that I'm talking about the entire territories of these regions within their administrative borders as at they existed under Ukraine. As soon as Kiev says that it's ready and starts the withdrawal of its troops, and once they say that they are no longer willing to join NATO, just the same moment, immediately, we will stop the fire and launch talks. We will do this immediately. Let me repeat this. At the same time, we guarantee that Ukraine will be able to withdraw its troops safely. These decisions on the withdrawal of troops and the non-aligned status and the dialogue with Russia, which will define Ukraine's future, we believe that these decisions must be taken by Kyiv independently, guided by the genuine interests, national interests of the Ukrainian people, without getting instructions from the West.
This is my video update on this Friday afternoon, June 14th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Russian President Vladimir Putin speaking at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And boy, did Putin say a whole lot of interesting things. Too many things to discuss in this video. Go check out what Putin said at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Some of the key points from Putin's speech, from his statements. He said that Atlanticism is dead. He said it's over. No more Atlanticism. What he really means is that the neocon Project Ukraine is over. He said that it is time now for a new security architecture in Europe, but also in Eurasia. He said a new security architecture in Eurasia. That was a big statement that he made. He talked about the history of the conflict in Ukraine. He gave some insights as to how everything got started. He mentioned that the Ukraine military was going to attack the Donbass, and that is why Russia recognized Donetsk and Lugansk. He said that during the beginning days of the conflict, the first couple of weeks of the conflict, that Russia was indeed looking to get Ukraine to the negotiating table. There were no plans to capture Kiev, and the ultimate goal was to put pressure on Zelensky so that he can negotiate Ukraine's neutrality, in essence. And he removed Russian troops from the areas of Kiev in order to get to the final deal for the conflict to end within a matter of weeks, with a neutral, non-aligned Ukraine that recognized the language of the Russian speakers, the culture and the language of the Russian speakers, and that was the goal of the first month of the conflict in Ukraine. It almost succeeded, but it did not succeed. We know why. Putin also gave some terms to end the conflict today, which I think was a really interesting part to his statement. He said that Russia is open to negotiations. They are still open to negotiations, but as I have said many times on this channel, as we have said many times on the Duran, the United States and Ukraine, they have to recognize the realities on the ground. And for Putin, he said that the conditions to negotiate have to involve Ukraine troops leaving the Russian territories, the newly recognized Russian territories. That means not only Donetsk and Lugansk, that means Zaporozhye and Kherson. And Putin made it a point to say the entirety of these regions. So even cities that right now are being fought over, and where the Ukraine military is currently positioned, these cities have to be vacated by the Ukraine military. So the entirety of Kherson, Zaporozhye, Lugansk, Donetsk, they have to be rid of Ukrainian troops. He said that's one of the conditions. He said that Ukraine obviously has to commit to a non-aligned neutral status. There will be no entering into NATO. There will be no possibility of a nuclear Ukraine. All of that stuff is over. Demilitarization of the entirety of Ukraine in accordance with the Istanbul agreements. He said that as well. And finally, he said that in order to negotiate, the protection of the rights of Russian speakers in Ukraine has to be recognized. Those are the terms that Putin has put on the table today. Once again, Putin has said that Russia is ready to negotiate an end to the conflict, but these terms, these are the foundations, the starting point for negotiations. These are the terms. And then these are tough. These are tough terms that the neocons and the United States, the Biden White House, and the European leaders, they will never accept. But they should accept these terms because, as Putin said in a statement, if you don't accept the realities on the ground and you don't accept these terms, as I have laid them out, things are just going to get worse. And we've seen that over the past 10 years, since 2014, things have gotten worse and worse for Ukraine. Think about how things would have been for Ukraine if they had just accepted the Minsk agreements. So that was what Putin said in his statement at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And from Putin, we now go to Italy. We go to Italy and let's talk about the G7. The G7 taking place in Italia. And the big event at the G7 had nothing to do with trade for the countries in the G7, had nothing to do with talking about finances and a better economic future for the citizens of the G7 countries. Nope, that was not the big event. The big event was Biden signing a security agreement with Zelensky. That was the big event at the G7. Why Ukraine is at the G7? Don't know. Don't know what Ukraine is doing at the G7. Why is Biden signing an agreement with this man in a green t-shirt who is not the legitimate president of Ukraine in accordance with their constitution and according to the Russian Federation? Why is Biden signing this 10-year agreement with this man? Don't know. Don't know. But that was the big event. That was the big event. A 10-year security deal. I talked about this a bit yesterday in my video. Biden and Zelensky, they made a big ceremony out of it. They signed the security deal. And Biden and Zelensky, they made a couple of statements. Zelensky, first of all, looked out of it. He looked out of it. I don't know if he was partying hard the night before or what was going on, but his mannerisms were a bit strange. And Zelensky, he told the media that they asked him a question about China, and he said that he has talked to Xi Jinping, and China has given Zelensky their word that they will not send weapons to Russia. And Zelensky said that he believes Xi Jinping. He trusts Xi Jinping because they gave him their word. They gave me the word, Zelensky said. They gave me the word. No weapons to Russia, and I trust Xi Jinping. I trust his word. Even though 2 weeks ago, Zelensky said that Xi Jinping is a Putin puppet. That's what he said 3 weeks ago. Is Xi Jinping, he Putin puppet. But now in Italy, I think that Xi Jinping is good for his word. The word. He gave me the word, Zelensky said. Like the Putin, the word.
I had phone conversation with a leader of China by phone. He said that he will not sell any weapon to Russia. That is the first. We'll see with you. We'll see. But he said to me, if he is a respectable person, he will not, because he gave me the word.
Do you actually believe that Zelensky had a phone call with Xi Jinping and Xi Jinping told him all this stuff? No. Of course not. Of course not. This is nonsense. This is all imaginary. All of this stuff is imaginary. But, Zelensky, this is what he told reporters. And Biden said that this agreement that he has signed with Ukraine absolutely, definitely does not mean that U.S. troops will be in Ukraine. He said that the U.S. will give Ukraine money and weapons, but there will be no troops, U.S. troops. I believe the security agreement has to get ratified by Congress. That's not going to happen. Who knows? Maybe Congress will ratify this agreement and they'll make it into a treaty. But no, that's not going to happen. So this agreement is meaningless. It's meaningless. It really is. The U.S. is going to give weapons and money to Ukraine. What's new? What is new? Biden did say that this agreement is symbolic. It does hold a symbolic significance. Biden also talked about the $50 billion loan that is being given to Ukraine, of which the European Union is on the hook for. If Ukraine fails to pay back that loan, well, then the European Union is going to have to pay back that loan to bondholders. But no need to worry, citizens of the EU. Ukraine is absolutely good for it. I'm positive that they're going to pay back the $50 billion loan to the United States with interest. But if Ukraine fails to pay back that loan, well, then the European Union is going to pay back that money to bondholders. But Biden said that the security agreement and the loan, everything that is happening in Italy is very symbolic, and it's sending a message to the Putin. President Biden said the $50 billion loan would put that money to work for Ukraine and send another reminder to Russian President Vladimir Putin that we're not backing down. That is what he said. We're not backing down. And then Biden said that Mr. Putin, oh, get this. This is great. This is coming from Biden, by the way. Keep in mind, this is coming from Joe Biden, Professor Biden. He said that Mr. Putin cannot wait us out. He cannot divide us and will be with Ukraine until they prevail in this war. Yeah. Yeah. Putin is not going to outlast Biden. That's the message. Yep. That's the message. There is no way that Putin is going to outlast Professor Biden. Nope. That is not going to happen. Oh my God. It's not. It's all theater. It's all theater. It's all nonsense. All of this is just theater and nonsense. That's all it is. Nothing more. Even Politico yesterday, they put out an article with the title "Six Lame Ducks and Giorgia Meloni Meet the G7 Class of 2024." And then The Guardian, they put out an article with the title "Meloni in the Pink as she consoles procession of dead men walking." Even Politico and The Guardian are making fun of this G7 meeting. Just dissolve the G7. Just dissolve it, or call it something else. Because this meeting has nothing to do with finance, economics, trade. Has nothing to do with this stuff. It's just all theater. It's all show. It's all optics, media spin. That's all it is. That is all it is. Or call it something else. Call it the meeting of leaders on their way out with a man in a green T-shirt. I don't know. Just call it something else, man. Oh my God. Even Politico and Guardian are making fun of the G7. Sunak, gone. Macron, possibly gone. Who else? Trudeau. Enough said. Enough said. Biden, possibly gone. Who else is at the Ursula? Possibly gone. She's fighting with Michelle. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with Ursula? Why is the EU? Why is Ursula at this G7 meeting? That's another question that I have. Why is she there? European Union's not a country. What are they doing at the G7? Olaf Scholz. Wow. what a group of leaders there. And then you have Meloni. Then you have Meloni. Oh boy. So MBS, he was invited to the G7 and he turned it down. He turned it down. Mohammed bin Salman will miss the event because of Hajj session commitments, according to local media. A statement from the Saudi government on Wednesday said the Crown Prince had sent an apology to Meloni and declined an invitation to attend the gathering scheduled on June 13th in Puglia due to commitments related to supervising pilgrimage. Hajj is set to begin on June 14th, drawing around 1.5 million visitors who will make the pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia's Mecca. Yeah, do you guys honestly believe that MBS turned down the invitation to go to the G7 because of preparation for Hajj? No, he's got hundreds and thousands of people and staff to prepare all of these things. He doesn't have to be there on site to manage and prepare for Hajj in Saudi Arabia for the pilgrimage. That was his excuse. All of these people are either on their way out or on their way out. They're either about to go or they're gone. You know, Sunak's going to go back to the UK and he's Audi 5000. Biden, who knows what's going on with Biden? I mean, check out some of the video from the events of the G7. Biden is in Italy, but he's not in Italy. You know what I mean? So yeah, MBS was like, I'm not going to be in photos with these guys. And they're not really going to discuss anything of importance, anything that has to do with economics and finance and trade. They're going to talk about China bad, Russia bad, and Zelensky's going to be running around asking me for money. That's what MBS is thinking. Zelensky's going to be running around asking me for money. Hey, MBS, can I have some money? Can I have some money? MBS like, I don't want to deal with this. From what I understand, Zelensky made a surprise trip to Saudi Arabia. He just showed up in Saudi Arabia. Who does that? Just shows you Zelensky doesn't want to go home. He is terrified of going back to Kiev. Podolyak, I got a couple of hours before we go to Italy, but I don't want to go home to Kiev. Where can we go? Maybe Saudi Arabia? Maybe I see MBS. I think he likes me. I like him. Maybe he has some extra money to give me. What do you think, Podolyak? Tell Pilot to head to Saudi Arabia. I pop in on my good friend MBS. Oh my God. So a lot of people are talking about the alleged, I say that, the agreement that has come to an end between Saudi Arabia and the United States. And I think there's a bit of misconception about what's going on here. At least that's how I'm seeing it. I don't think there was an agreement in place 50 years ago which said that Saudi Arabia absolutely must trade in dollars, must sell oil in USD to create the petrodollar. And I don't think this agreement has come to an end. And now that means that Saudi Arabia if they don't renew this agreement, they're free to now sell oil in other currencies. I don't think that's the reality of the situation. Were there agreements that were set up in, I believe, in 1974? Yeah, there were agreements that were set up. And was it beneficial for Saudi Arabia at the time to price oil in dollars, sell oil in dollars in order to get certain security guarantees from the United States? Absolutely. Was it beneficial for the United States? Absolutely. I think at that time in 1974, the world was a much different place, and Saudi Arabia and the United States, they saw mutual beneficial interest for each of their countries in making this arrangement, and so they did it, and it lasted for 50 years. But the world has changed, and I know that Saudi Arabia has been working with China over the past couple of years on a deal to sell oil in Chinese yuan. And Naked Capitalism, Eve Smith, she's reported on this. Alexander on his channel, he's talked about this. We've talked about this on the Duran. This has been in the works for, I believe, since 2022. I believe this was announced that China is indeed working with Saudi Arabia so that oil can be priced and traded in yuan without the U.S. dollar. So I think what's going on here is not that a certain agreement has come to an end and Saudi Arabia is not renewing that agreement. I think what's happening is that Saudi Arabia was never locked into a U.S. dollar agreement. That never happened, but the world is different. Saudi Arabia can now find other countries that can provide security and weapons, state-of-the-art weapons, like Russia, for example. And its place in the region has changed. Saudi Arabia's place in the region has changed, and you have options now with regards to selling oil and pricing oil in the markets. And Saudi Arabia is in OPEC plus. It's Saudi Arabia and Russia. Those are the two big guys. And things are just very different, and Saudi Arabia now has options. They have options and choice. They don't have to remain locked into the USD. They don't have to remain locked into the United States. They can start to sell their oil in different currencies, and they can get security agreements with different countries. So I think that's what's happening, and I imagine that pretty soon we are going to see some sort of an agreement announced between China and Saudi Arabia with regards to pricing, selling oil in yuan without the need for the U.S. dollar. So that's what I think is going on here. I don't see this as a 50-year deal that has come to an end, and now Saudi Arabia is finally free. No, it's just that Saudi Arabia has options in today's world, and they're going to exercise those options. 10 years ago, they didn't have those options. So there was nothing for them to really do. There was no need to do anything. And 20 years ago, absolutely no need to work outside of the US dollar. Today, yeah, Saudi Arabia is part of BRICS. They can start to explore different partnerships and different payment arrangements that serve its interests. So that's, I just wanted to talk a bit about that, because that was a big story. A lot of people are talking about that. Since the sanctions on the Moscow Stock Exchange in Russia, we have reports now saying that Russia is going to replace the dollar with the yuan as the main foreign currency. This is what the central bank announced. The renminbi accounted for 54% share of the FX market in May. According to the regulator, the yuan-ruble exchange rate will now set the trajectory for other currency pairs on the Moscow exchange, including for the euro and dollar, the Bank of Russia announced on Thursday. De-dollarization. Yeah, other countries are going to look on and they're going to say, wow, you can do that? We can actually look at a different main exchange currency. Interesting. So other countries are going to look on and they're going to follow in Russia's footsteps. This was a terrible, just a dumb move from the Biden White House. Really, really dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Why do they do these things? Why do they do these things knowing that all you're doing is weakening the US dollar, the USD's position? But they just can't help themselves. They're so obsessed, so fixated on trying to punish Putin, not even Russia, trying to punish Putin. They're so fixated on this that all they're doing is just shooting themselves in every single foot that they have, you know? Every foot that they have, they're just shooting themselves. Boy, it's hard to explain the rationale, if there even is any, for the decisions that the Biden White House has been making with regards to the US dollar. So what else? What else should we discuss? Poland came out with an announcement yesterday, and they said that they have no more Patriots to give to Ukraine. The New York Times was reporting that Poland is going to give another Patriot system to Ukraine. And Poland came out with a statement and said, nope. They said that Patriot system, all the Patriot systems that we currently have, they are staying put to protect Poland. We are not going to give any more Patriots to Ukraine. Actually, I think it's the defense minister of Poland. Let me see if I have the quote. Yeah, the defense minister of Poland said Poland did not agree to transfer the Polish battery. Polish Patriots defend the Polish sky, and this will not change. Yeah, these Patriots are going to defend Poland, not Ukraine, and this will not change. Wow. Duda and Zelensky, they really did have a falling out, huh? Something happened between those two. I don't know what happened, but they really did have a falling out. German Defense Minister Pistorius, he also said that Germany is tapping out when it comes to the air defense game for Project Ukraine. Germany has no more Patriots to give. I believe they're giving their one final system over, along with an Iris-T, and that's it. Germany provides 3 systems for Ukraine. This is a quarter of our own reserves of such systems. It is no longer possible to transfer more. That is what the German defense minister said. So Poland tapping out, Germany tapping out. They're going to have to look elsewhere. The collective West, Zelensky's going to have to look elsewhere for Patriot systems. How are they going to protect the F-16s flying out of Poland? I don't know. There's actually good news flying out of Romania, not flying out of Poland, flying out of Romania. This is actually good news for Romania. Maybe if they can't get to the Patriot systems to provide cover, because that's their plan, the Patriot systems are going to provide cover for the F-16s flying out of Romania. Maybe if they can't get the Patriots that they need, then they're going to scrap this Romania F-16, stored in Romania F-16 idea. We'll see. We will see. By the way, today, speaking of the F-16s, today there was reports that the Russian military, they hit a whole bunch of air bases in Ukraine, demolished air bases throughout Ukraine, which is basically the Russian military's way of saying, yeah, don't try to sell us on this F-16 from Romania landing in an air base in Ukraine nonsense, because we're just going to destroy whatever air bases are in Ukraine. And so if there's any F-16s attacking Russia, we're going to know 100% that those F-16s came from Romania and were armed in Romania, and there are no more air bases in Ukraine. So the Russians are dismantling the air bases throughout Ukraine. And let's do a couple of more stories and then we'll get into a clown world. Got very windy all of a sudden. So Hungary is being fined. Yeah. Hungary is being fined $200 million by the EU court, the EU Justice Court. They are fining Hungary $200 million and $1 million every single day because Hungary refuses to take asylum seekers or migrants or whatever. However you want to categorize the people that are trying to enter the European Union, according to the court, Hungary's refusal to abide by EU law and its refusal to take its share of migrants and asylum seekers means that Hungary will be fined $200 million plus $1 million every single day that it refuses to comply with EU law. That's what it means to be part of the European Union. I think I have a quote from Orban. He described the court's ruling as outrageous and unacceptable, adding, "It seems that illegal migrants are more important to the Brussels bureaucrats than their own European citizens." Well, yeah, Orban, if you're part of the EU, it means that you do not control your legal system and you do not control your borders. You do not control who comes into your country, period. The EU controls that. Ursula tells you who can enter your country. She controls your borders. That's what you signed up for, Hungary, when you entered the European Union. That's what every country signs up for when they enter the European Union. And it's not only losing control of your borders, it's losing control of your legal system. So when the EU court decides to move against you and fine you $200 million, they're going to fine you $200 million. And there's not much you can do about it. Well, you could leave. You could leave. You could join BRICS, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen anytime soon. So yeah, that's the news about Hungary. They are putting all kinds of pressure on Orban. All kinds of pressure on trying to make life difficult for Orban and to try and get some sort of removal of Orban. One more story, and then we'll do a quick clown world. So remember the list that came out the other day? I talked about it, the enemies list from a Ukrainian NGO, which had something like 300 Americans on the list, saying that they were responsible for the failure of Project Ukraine. Well, J.D. Vance and Matt Gaetz, they were actually on this list, I believe. Anyway, they're calling for an investigation into this Ukrainian NGO because this Ukrainian NGO, like all of the NGOs in Ukraine, are funded by the U.S. government. And they want to know, how is it possible that the U.S. State Department funds an NGO that is calling so many Americans, including members of Congress, members of Senate, prominent Americans, famous Americans, American business people, American celebrities. How is it that American influencers, how is it that this NGO is being funded by the State Department, taking American taxpayer money and branding us as enemies, putting us on an enemies list? So they're calling for an investigation. The NGO has a weird name, this Ukrainian NGO, which is funded by the State Department. Its name is texty.org.ua. texty.org.ua. And it put out the list, the enemies list, called Roller Coaster, from Trumpists to communists. The forces in the US impeding aid to Ukraine and how they do it. That's the enemies list that is now under investigation. And that's just one NGO. There are hundreds and thousands of NGOs that are getting money from the United States to come up with all of these lists and studies and reports. If JD Vance and Matt Getz investigate this NGO, my advice to them is you haven't even started yet. you have a long way to go if you want to get to a real investigation of all the NGO money and everything that it's been doing in Ukraine. Boy, do you have one lengthy, big investigation to undertake. Texty.org.ua. These guys are like small potatoes. Small potatoes. How about the Miro Tvorets? How about you look into that one? They've got an interesting enemies list. Anyway, that's the news from JD Vance and Matt Getz. Let's do some clown worlds. So we go back to the G7 and a video of Biden. There was some sort of an event where every one of the G7 participants were outdoors. I think some sort of parachute or something was taking place, and they were watching on. And then Biden, as you can see in the video, just started to wander off. And look at the reaction from all of the other G7 attendees. Even Ursula is shocked. Ursula's like, what's he doing? Ursula's like, what's he doing? Then Maloney has to come from the other side of the group and kind of redirect Biden back to where everyone is. He's slipping. He is slipping really fast. What a bizarre display there from Biden at the G7. And one more. Let's do one more. Kind of a clown world, I guess. We have the European Championship in Germany taking place. I think, when does it start? When does the Euro start? Is it next week? Anyway, it's going to be taking place very soon, and Ukraine is in the Euro, taking place in Germany. And the word is that the Ukrainian national team will be taken under special protection as they participate in Germany's Euro event. And so the word is that this special protection, this is just a rumor, maybe even a little bit of trolling, I don't know. But this is clown world territory. So don't take this as very serious analysis. But the rumor is that the Ukrainian team, the football team, is going to be under special protection, not to protect the team from outsiders, but to make sure that no one on the football team manages to escape and to become free because of the mobilization. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some football merch, Football 24. You will find a link to all of that merch in the description box down below. Take care.